let us look at hydrogen fuel cell. Well, this was the guy, Sir William Robert Grove, 1839 is when the first fuel cell was developed, and he was not a, he was a physician, doctor, no, physicist actually, this should not be physician, he was a physicist. Okay. So, in 1950, so between for 100 years it was just of academic interest, people, it was invented, but it was not used. Okay. In 1950s, for the first time during Cold War, it was used for electrical power generation for spacecrafts and also for submarines. So, 1950s, this technology was, it was realized that it has some potential. And then, in last decade it became very important because the efficiency of the fuel cells have increased and costs have decreased and multiple purposes have been identified. And one of the big push for the fuel cell is automotive application, because automotive sector is so large worldwide. So, now people are thinking that if we can exploit this technology for this purpose. What is a fuel cell? So, fuel cell is just reverse of the electrolysis. Let me put it this way, exactly reverse of electrolysis. In electrolysis, what you are doing? You have water, you put electricity, you generate hydrogen and oxygen. In fuel cell, you take hydrogen and oxygen, you combine them, produce water and electricity, exactly reverse. Okay. So, it converts hydrogen and oxygen into water and electrical current. The benefits are that it is a highly efficient process, 40 to 50% efficiency is there. It does not have noise, there are no emissions of any GHG gas, which will reduce the dependence on the fuel, on the fossil fuel. And this is one commercial stack of General Motors. General Motors is at the forefront of developing the fuel cells for automotive applications. So, this is one such module that has been made by them. Okay. There are few components that I would like to draw your attention to. So, basically what happens is that this purple thing in the middle, it is called PEM, proton exchange membrane. It is a polymeric electrolyte, basically polymeric film, and on both sides, on one side you have anode, on other side you have cathode. So, from one side hydrogen gas flows, from the other side air or the oxygen flows. Okay. So, what happens is that hydrogen splits into H plus ion, proton and electron. Hydrogen splits into proton and electron. There is a catalyst here and it splits into proton and electron. So, electron travels through the outer circuit and forms current. Protons travels through the proton exchange membrane and goes to this side. And when it goes to this side, this electron passes here, oxygen is there, proton is there, electron has come from outside and electron has lost its energy. Okay. And then they combine and then they produce water and the cycle gets completed. So, in this you generate water. One of the big challenges of this process or this technology is that what happens if the temperature is below 0. So, when the temperature is below 0, this water that you are producing will start forming ice, and once it starts forming ice, it will start blocking these channels, and these channels are very small channels, micron, not micron, these are like 200 micron, 300 micron, maybe less than 1 millimeter wide channels, okay, 0.2 millimeter or something like that. So, water gets collected, it gets frozen, and once it gets frozen, it will stop the flow, and if it stops the flow, what will happen? Everything will stop. So, cold temperature performance of the fuel cell is a big problem. It needs some artificial heating, so that the water can remain in liquid form under low temperature ambient conditions. So, this is one of the limitations. Okay. So, again this shows here the hydrogen is split into proton and electron. Electrons go out, proton pass through this membrane, comes here, and then electron comes from outside, oxygen is coming, and this is also a platinum catalyst, and here water production takes place. So, there is one set of these 5 layers, it is called one stack. It produces about 1 point some volts and some maybe about 1 ampere kind of a current, or depending on the size, ampere can be more or less. So, depending on how many volts you want, how much power you want, you make stacks. Stacks means 1 set, 2 set, 3 sets. You will put them in series and then the voltage will increase. Okay. So, the problem is that one fuel cell is about 1 point some voltage. So, it is a very low voltage. So, the solution is that you stack them, several fuel cells, and then that way you increase the voltage while keeping the current constant, or maybe if you put them in parallel, current will also increase. Okay. So, basic chemical reactions are hydrogen plus oxygen is water. In principle, hydrogen is split into proton plus electron, and then anode, electrons travel from the anode to cathode, and this is called electric current. And when they reach cathode, they react with the oxygen, give you O minus ion, and at the cathode O minus combines with this proton which is coming via the PEM, and it forms water. So, now you see here, this figure very nicely explains why hydrogen cannot be treated as a fuel, it is just an energy carrier. So, you see here, this is the water molecule, we are starting from here, and you are giving electrical energy in an electrolyzer, and this is splitting hydrogen plus oxygen. Okay? And this is the electrolysis process. Then this hydrogen and oxygen you take to the fuel cell and you combine them, and it gives you electrical output. And then once the electrical output comes out, this is the water molecule which comes again to this ship. So, basically you can see that hydrogen and oxygen and water, they are changing they are in a cyclic mode. One type of energy is being put in here, another type of energy is being generated here. Here it is electrical energy, here it could be electrical energy, it is electrical energy also. So, basically you can see that hydrogen here is not acting as a fuel, hydrogen here is acting as a energy carrier. So, now I hope you are convinced that hydrogen is not really a fuel. Then there are several other types of fuel cells. I think I will skip this, you have understood the fuel cells, but I will just say that there are alkaline fuel cells. I will provide you these slides, you can read them. So, there are alkaline fuel cells where electrolyte is alkaline, then there is a proton exchange membrane fuel cells, that is the one that we just discussed. Then there is a phosphoric acid fuel cells where the electrolyte is actually phosphoric acid. Okay. So, and there are many other types, molten metal fuel cells, etc., etc. So, when you are using hydrogen fuel cell, the challenges are, first is the tank size, how do you store the hydrogen at what pressure. Second is the operation in the cold weather, because the freezing of the ice will freezing of the water into ice will take place. Then the cost is very expensive, because you are using platinum catalysts to split hydrogen into proton and electrons. Okay. So, this is the cost is very high, and then there is one big scarcity of the fuel cells, fuel stations, hydrogen fuel stations worldwide, and then safety concerns. People are really scared about safety issues with hydrogen, and then there is environmental problem with the materials that are used in hydrogen fuel cell production. Tank size, low density hydrogen means you have to have higher fuel size to achieve driving range similar to petrol. So, if you have bigger tanks, in spite of high pressurization, you will have bigger tanks, and this will lead to reduction in trunk size. You will be able to put lesser number of suitcases in the trunk, okay, very small space will be available. Cold weather, fuel cell contains water for humidifying the fuel cell and as a byproduct of reaction, and fuel cell need to reach a critical temperature for full performance. So, under low temperature its performance is suboptimal always. Consumer cost, fuel cell vehicle must be comparable to petrol, right now it is only 100 times the cost of the, okay. So, this makes it very, very expensive, and the price of the fuel must also be comparable, only then you will buy it, normal customer like you and me. If you are a Hollywood star, of course you do not care about cost, it is more of a fashion statement, and that is what is happening right now. Most of the Hollywood actors have fuel cell powered cars, because when they go into some shows, etc., they can show it off. It is more of a show off thing for them, but its penetration of the market for common people is very, very less, because right now it is not really value for the money, but with technology is something which keeps on evolving. There are problems, technical problems, we may be able to resolve them, we may be able to develop fuel cell. Refueling stations must exist before consumer will buy this vehicle. So there are meetings between top car manufacturers, fuel distributors and airlines to explore this. Now safety issue. So safety issue, I will show you these two cars. Public has to be educated. Right now safety with the hydrogen is more of a matter of ignorance. People are not aware of their properties. Once people are made aware of the properties of hydrogen and how safe or unsafe they are, you know, they have to be educated. For example, let me ask you, do you feel fear when you sit in the petrol fueled car of any car catching fire or something like that? No. Now here are two cars given, okay. Which one is the petrol car? This one. What does it show? So it was a test simulation, leak simulation test, which was conducted by Dr. Swain. One is the petrol car, the other one is hydrogen car, and in both deliberately the hydrogen was leaked and it was deliberately ignited. So you can see, if you are sitting in such a car, you will be in no time, you will be Kentucky Fried Chicken, right. So you will be dead, okay. And this is the hydrogen car where the leak is there, but hydrogen has very low density, it rises up very fast, and I told you it has almost invisible flames. So the radiations also coming out. Lot of people die because of the radiation. Lot of soot is being produced, so flames are visible and they radiate lot of soot. If the flames are not radiating, nobody will get burnt. So here you see the flames are not radiating, and inside the cabin the temperature never reached above 25 degrees centigrade. So maybe you feel little bit hot within tolerable limits, but you will be safe, extremely safe, okay. So hydrogen is extremely safe provided you know how to handle it. But again, if you are inside a room, enclosed atmosphere where there is no place for the hydrogen to escape, of course it will kill you. First time when the electricity was invented, dynamo was invented and electricity was invented, people were so scared of, you know, what kind of a technology we have created which is going to give you shock. And now, you know, you are not scared if you ask your 3-year-old son to switch on or switch off a fan or a light. It has become so safe. So people have to be educated about the safety of the hydrogen. But there are some historical reasons also, I will talk to you about little later. Caltech estimated that 10 to 20% hydrogen leaks from the car and refueling stations will take place. And this hydrogen that will take place, leakage that will take place, because when you are filling and it is a light material and even the molecules are small, they may penetrate through the tank, and when they go up in the atmosphere they may lead to cooling of the upper atmosphere and they will disturb the ozone chemistry if it is implemented on a very large scale for the, say, entire transport sector. But you know, there is president of International Association of Hydrogen Energy. He believes that this percentage that is being talked about, 10 to 20%, this will be much less than what they are considering. So there are debates of the environmental impact also. Now it's time to show you some good cars, okay, which you can dream of. So fuel cell cars, and you can see very, very smart looking cars. So two types of hydrogen engines are there. Two types of hydrogen engines, a fuel cell or a hydrogen IC engine car. The main difference between two is that fuel cells are more expensive and hydrogen engines are cheaper. So if you can afford to buy right now you can afford to buy a hydrogen IC engine car. Maybe 10 years down the line, if you are having a very successful startup company, you make a lot of money, maybe you can buy a fuel cell car. But right now, maybe a hydrogen IC engine car. So therefore, much cheaper hydrogen IC engines are seen by many experts as the means to provide transition between emitting and non-emitting transport and stationary systems. So I think this gives you the comparison between different types of vehicles. I will not go into the details of it. It compares the gasoline IC engine with gasoline hybrids, with hydrogen IC engines and hybrid fuel cells, different parameters such as what kind of engine is being used, average efficiency, and you can see that hydrogen IC engines are more efficient than both of them, but fuel cells are even more efficient. Maximum engine efficiency is this, fuel cells are higher, transmission efficiency is good, fuel economy you can see in miles per gallon equivalent. Of course, gasoline IC engine is poor, gasoline hybrid is much better, hydrogen IC engine is even better, and fuel cell is even better. Okay. So, let us look at the configuration of the fuel cell vehicle. So, you have fuel which is hydrogen in this case, and then you have fuel cell will generate power, electrical power, and then it goes to the power conditioner will charge the batteries. So, between the electricity will flow in between the battery and the power conditioner depending on whether the need is more or the production is more, and then from the power conditioner the electricity is provided to the accessories, and then it will also be given to the drive motors. Again, drive motors both ways. When you want to accelerate, it will go. When you are braking, the drive motor will act like a generator and it will generate electricity which will finally be stored in the battery. Okay. So, regenerative braking is one of the big plus points of such vehicles. Okay. And then the drive motor will drive the wheels. So, this is the basic vehicle configuration at a very high level. Now, I will show you some of the very interesting cars. One is called GM Highwire, another one is BMW 750 HL, then Toyota fuel cell hybrid vehicle, and Toyota Finance. These are little old cars, I am sure there are more new cars which are available. Hydrogen IC engines. So, hydrogen IC engines are viable alternative for bridging the gap of the hydrogen fuel cell economy, and hydrogen, IC engines have gone 100 years of refinement, and we basically want to reduce the dependence on the foreign oil and greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, a lot of incentive is being given to develop hydrogen fuel vehicles all over the world. This is just a cartoon representation of dollars to import the petroleum. It shows the dependence of the transport sector on dollars, means imported fuel. Okay. So, some history, electrolysis was first time done in 1800, then hydrogen IC engines were proposed before the actually other IC engines were developed in 1820. 1874, Jules Verne wrote the novel where he said that hydrogen will be water will be the coal of the future. Okay, this was the Jules Verne. And then 1860 and 70, Nicholas Otto used hydrogen IC engine mixed with hydrogen fuel. Okay, and there was an accident when he was using this, and he almost died in that. Almost, I mean, he was very badly injured in that accident with hydrogen fuel. In 1930 and 40, Rudolf Aron, he developed the hydrogen IC engine successfully, and there was a lot of work done by Francis Bacon in 1950s. Everything was fine, lot of work was being done on hydrogen, people were running hydrogen, developing hydrogen engines, and people were flying these zeppelins, okay, airships between Europe and America, and all of that was fueled by hydrogen as well. Hydrogen was not a taboo at that time, but then one fine day Hindenburg happened. This was an airship, and this was the airship, people were traveling from Europe to America. This is being, you can see some ropes, people are there, about 100 people on board this ship. This used to be like a flying 5-star hotel, you could cook, sleep, and it was not as congested as our aeroplanes of today, it was much bigger than that, and it used to fly on slow speed. So, its speed will be like 50-60 kilometer an hour. So, people will take 7 days from coming to America to Europe or the other way, okay, and it was landing. So, landing means you really have to pull down by ropes, and suddenly the lightning strike took place, and then this is fueled by hydrogen. So, within a matter of second the whole thing got burnt, and 100 people on board, everybody died, and this happened in Chicago in 1937. and the blame was put on hydrogen, that people died because of the hydrogen. Okay. And after that hydrogen became a monster. Nobody touched, nobody even did research on hydrogen for next 20-30 years, because once an accident happened and you blame it on a particular fuel, nobody wants to do that research. Government funding stops for, no research is funded, private entrepreneurs stop funding. How do you do research? So, so after that, this was a black day in the history of hydrogen, and this stopped all the activities. Later on, some forensic experiments were done, and it was figured out that the paint that was there on the surface, it was flammable. So, when the lightning strike took place, it was the paint and the structure that got burnt first, and hydrogen had really nothing to do with this accident. But then that was discovered like maybe 10, 15, 20 years back. Okay. So, the damage was already done. So, as I said, after that the research completely stopped, only sporadic efforts were there. Very, very few agencies were involved in research. Some research here and there was on, but mostly people looked at hydrogen as a very bad fuel. And I will tell you some of those research efforts. And in fact, because of the Hindenburg, let me tell you, we are not driving the hydrogen cars today. If Hindenburg wouldn't have happened, I am sure we would have been driving hydrogen cars for 20 years now at least. Okay. So, after that, as I said, it was only the military which was involved in hydrogen vehicle research. In 1943, Air Force of America, they investigated liquid hydrogen fuel for Air Force propulsion. In 1956, Lockheed Martin looked at exploring hydrogen, and basically a B-57 bomber, this was the B-57 bomber, this flew with the hydrogen. So, even they were not very confident. So, one of the engine was fueled with kerosene, the other engine was fueled with hydrogen, okay, because they were not sure. See, in aircrafts, if you have, even if you have 4 engines, you design the engine, you want to make lot of redundancy, you build in lot of redundancy in the airplanes, because suppose you want certain amount of power. So, each of those engines will be capable of giving you that amount of power. So, if you are sitting in a 4-plane engine and 3 engines go out of order, even the plane can keep flying with 1 engine, it will not come down on the earth. Okay. So, when 2 plane engines also, if one engine goes out, you are still safe. So, same way, they were not very sure, and of course, they should not be very sure if we are doing the experiment for the first time. One of the engine flew on hydrogen, the other engine flew on liquid hydrogen. Okay. And then Daimler-Benz, there was some university competitions that were organized in 1970 something, 72 or 73 by University of California. And in the US, the technology is mostly developed by such competitions where they throw challenges that, okay, now the theme is that you develop hydrogen fueled cars. So, all the universities will get together, bright guys like you will get together, and they will start putting their brains and come up with newer ideas, develop their engine and make the vehicle prototype, and then run the race. And then somebody wins, and then people look at what technology they have used, and maybe they try to replicate in the production. This culture right now does not exist in our country, but it is slowly coming, because now in India also we have started taking student competitions more seriously. Okay. So, this is one of the big ways of how to develop new technology, and it is being exploited very, very effectively by US government and US automotive companies who hunt for the technology in such competitions. So, there are many companies, they started making hydrogen prototypes. So, Daimler-Benz, they prepared a metal hydride based hydrogen IC engine car in 1984, 1988. General Motor also created a hydrogen IC engine prototype. Mazda, Cadillac hydrogen IC engine and hydride hydrogen IC engine cars were developed. Then you see this is just a hydrogen IC engine, and this is what is fitted inside the bus made by BMW. Okay. So, there is a lot of research going on as far as the hydrogen is concerned. Okay. Now, if you look at the hydrogen, there could be several ways. One is that you can use 100% hydrogen in the car in spark ignition mode. You can have hydrogen supplementation, that means some energy coming from petrol, some energy coming from hydrogen. You can have mixtures of hydrogen and CNG. In fact, a lot of research on hydrogen CNG mixtures is done in IIT Kanpur Engine Research Lab, and we are a lot of work is being done, especially if you look at the laser ignited hydrogen and enriched CNG engine development. We are the first one in the world to develop HCNG laser ignited engine in automotive size. Dual fueling, diesel and hydrogen supplementation is also one technology how to use hydrogen in the engines. So, if you look at the storage of the hydrogen on board, as I said, metal hydrides, these are the special alloys that incorporate hydrogen atoms in their crystalline structure. Hydrogen is released when the heat is applied to these alloys. So, I told you that the metals are heavy. So, just to give you a comparison of weights, a tank of 120 kilograms of metal hydride will store 6 kilograms of hydrogen, and this 6 kilogram of hydrogen will give your car a range of about 500 kilometer. So, that is pretty good, but still its weight will be 125 kilograms. Compare it with gasoline. So, this kind of a range will be given by 35 liters of gasoline, and the tank will be about 15 to 20 kilograms. So, about 55 kilograms of weight with gasoline can take you 500 kilometer. In case of hydrogen, it is 75 kilograms extra, although the fuel consumed is only 6 kilograms. Okay. Three-wheelers, for three-wheelers are of special interest to India. So, in three-wheelers, now there are many three-wheelers which are developed by IIT Delhi, which are running very successfully in the Pragati Maidan. So, next time you go to Pragati Maidan for some exhibition, you can see the three-wheelers. There are about 10 of them which are developed by IIT Delhi, which are fueled with hydrogen. So, they use very small cylinders of half kilo, and this half kilo cylinder is good enough to take the three-wheeler for 150 kilometers. So, that is a pretty good thing, and a half kilo cylinder of hydrogen is not very big. So, as I said, you can go for metal hydrides, you can go for compressed hydrogen, you can go for cryogenic cooling, but there is absolutely no consensus worldwide, okay, because of the infrastructure cost and onboard extraction issues. I will discuss a little bit about the metal hydrides. So, you can see this is the scanning electron microscopy image of the metal hydrides. Okay. So, these are several thousand times magnified images, and you can see a lot of pores here in the metal surface. So, here in these pores the atoms of the hydrogen enter and adsorb on the surface. So, in the 1960s there was a lot of research and development that was done in US and Netherlands, and metal alloys, they adsorb hydrogen at high temperatures and pressure. Hydrogen is released and then hydrogen is, when heat is applied, hydrogen is dissolved. No, sorry, heat is released when hydrogen is absorbed, and same heat is required to release the hydrogen. So, when you are putting the hydrogen in, heat will be released. It is an exothermic process, you need to remove that heat, okay. And when you want to release the hydrogen, you have to provide the same amount of heat. Okay. So, this explains how it works. This is a cooling and absorption system. It is a low temperature heat sink. This is a hydride container. So, the hydrogen in low pressure comes in, okay. You do not need to pressurize it. It comes in, hydrogen will be adsorbed, and as a result of the adsorption, heat will be generated. That heat will be removed and put into low temperature sink, okay, and hydrogen will keep filling. So, this is basically the hydrogen absorption. It will require cooling, that is why it is called cooling and absorption. Okay. So, this is the filling into the tank, filling of the hydrogen into the tank. Now, when you want to use it in the engine, you have to desorb, and in order to desorb, you have to give it heat. So, that heat comes from the high temperature source. What is the free high temperature source inside the engine or a vehicle? It is the radiator, lot of heat is available. So, you put the heat in, and of course, for this in the metal hydride tank you have to make some coils which will take the cooling water and heat it. So, when they heat it, metal hydride will dissolve the hydrogen, and then high pressure hydrogen comes out and it goes out of the tank. Okay, clear? So, the advantage is that hydrogen does not take any extra room, whatever is there, metal hydride, the volume will remain same, but metal also, whatever is the volume, it will not occupy any extra space. Hydrides can carry more energy per volume, per unit volume than liquid hydrogen, okay, and carry 2.2 times more than the compressed hydrogen at 500 psi, which is around 350 bar. Okay. So, this is actually metal hydride is the most dense storage of hydrogen. It is more dense than liquefied hydrogen, it is more dense than compressed hydrogen. Safety, it is absolutely safe, because there is no tank of hydrogen, compressed tank of hydrogen, no liquid hydrogen. So, even if your tank gets ruptured, it will not lead to spilling of hydrogen. Hydrogen it will itself not dissolve, because it has to be heated in order to be released. So, if you have a piece of metal hydride in your hand which has hydrogen adsorbed to it, there is no way you can release that hydrogen unless and until you heat it. So, it is very safe. So, disadvantage is that a 100 liter titanium iron tank weighs 1.2 to 1.5 times compared to 100 liters of liquid hydrogen, but weighs 25 times. So, weight is going to be very, very heavy. This is the compressed storage. This is, you can see, this is the rooftop of a bus, and these are the compressed hydrogen cylinders. This is Daimler Chrysler bus. Okay. The advantage is that it is the easiest form of hydrogen storage. Compressor technology is pretty well straightforward, and people have mastered it. The disadvantage is that backfire and engine knock are problematic, and it can lead to sometimes disasters. And despite extreme pressures, compressed tank occupies so much of space that they are only practical for buses or vans, where you have rooftop available. These are not practical for cars. Two-wheelers also is difficult. Liquid hydrogen. So, this is a BMW car, and this is the liquid hydrogen being filled into the cylinder. This is the gasoline tank inlet. Cryogenically cooled liquid hydrogen is BMW's preference. There is a lot of work done in Musahi Institute of Technology, and it requires extremely pressurized tank to keep it in liquid form. So, you have to pressurize it, and also you have to make it highly insulated. A BMW is in operation since 1990, equipped with an aluminum alloy tank that carries 120 liters of hydrogen with a capacity of 120 liters of liquid hydrogen. Okay. So, viability, the advantage of liquid hydrogen storage is lowest cost per unit energy, lowest weight per unit energy, easier supply logistics, and fast refueling. Disadvantage is loss of fuel when not operational, because the heat transfer will take place, and once the heat transfer will take place, pressure will increase, it will vaporize, it has to be flushed out into the atmosphere. And large tanks are required because storage density is very low. Cryogenic engineering obstacles, because you have to cool it up to minus 250 degrees C, and energy required to convert to liquid is about 40%. Okay. Fueling stations. So, you can see this is outside the Munich airport in Germany. This is liquid hydrogen fueling station. This is Honda solar hydrogen stations in Torrance in California. And then there were a lot of plans, Luxembourg, there were hydrogen refueling stations, California, Ireland, Japan, Holland, Norway, and the many places in the many states in United States, Washington DC, European Union, Reykjavik, Iceland, Hamburg. So, these are the places where infrastructure has begun to be put in place. Hydrogen fueling stations are being set up, because now hydrogen cars are becoming popular, even though the numbers are still very small. Now the biggest question, $1,000,000 question that people ask is, people are confused whether they should go for hydrogen IC engine car or whether fuel cell, because as the numbers look, fuel cell looks more efficient, but they are more expensive also. What should they do? So this is still an unresolved question. Fuel cells are definitely more efficient than hydrogen IC engine, but they are less efficient when operated on methane. Barriers exist to fuel cells as dual fuel vehicle. You can't, if you run out of hydrogen, you have to tow your car. Whereas if you run out of hydrogen IC engine car, you can switch to gasoline and still continue your journey. So this is one big plus. And fuel cell car are best for zero emissions. There is no emission coming out. In hydrogen IC engine car, although practically hydrogen plus oxygen is water, but this reaction takes place at a very high temperature. So at that temperature, the atmospheric oxygen also reacts with atmospheric nitrogen. So the only harmful pollutant that comes out of hydrogen IC engine is NOx. There is also some NOx formation. That NOx formation does not exist in case of fuel cell cars. So this is one. So hydrogen IC engine cars therefore cannot be called as zero emissions, because it has some NOx emission coming out. Okay. Fuel cell cars average 60 or more miles per gallon than BMW's hydrogen IC engine cars. Fuel cell cars are far more costly than hydrogen IC engine cars. So this is one of the, they are more efficient, but they are much more expensive. So if the fuel cells are the future, you see every company has made their own choice. So every company, I mean each company is working on one technology, not on all technology, because hydrogen, the volumes right now are very small. So for example, BMW has said that they will go for hydrogen IC engine car and they will use liquid hydrogen only. Similarly, there is some other company which is saying we will go only for fuel cell cars. So if fuel cells are the future, then BMW, which has said that they are investing in liquid hydrogen, their future will be adversely affected. But it is very unlikely. Fuel cell cars are 3 times more heavy as IC engine cars, because the fuel cell stacks are very large, storage also is large. There is no mass production of the fuel cells anywhere in the world as of now. Okay? And most hydrogen vehicles are produced as of today are hydrogen IC engine vehicles. Hydrogen IC engine offers good opportunity to improve the hydrogen infrastructure, as hydrogen IC engines are comparatively easy to produce compared to fuel cells. And hydrogen IC engine can bridge the gap of hydrogen fuel transport that eventually incorporate the fuel cells. So basically the way we see it is that if you want to really transition into hydrogen economy, first we should focus on hydrogen IC engines, have lot of cars on hydrogen IC engines, and when the lot of cars are there, obviously distribution network and fuel pumps, all these will come and infrastructure will be created, and then slowly, and by that time it will give enough time for fuel cell manufacturers also to come up, fuel cells to become cheaper. Once that are cheaper, eventually slowly the fuel cell can start coming in and more efficient cars will be produced. Fuel cell is a very costly technology, about 10 times hydrogen IC engine. It will take at least 10 years to become affordable. Hydrogen can be used in existing engines because it's a established technology, and it will require only some modifications in tooling to adapt it to hydrogen as a fuel. Hydrogen is a clean burn fuel. It gives only NOx emissions, and that also can be minimized. So we can minimize it. It's not that it is a big problem. And if we are not able to minimize whatever is coming out, we can also take care of it by exhaust gas after treatment. It's a standard technology. Hydrogen can also be used as admixture to hydrogen. So one of the first thing that India is looking forward is that, in India what we are saying, we have very good network of CNG. And once you have very good network of CNG, you mix little bit of hydrogen. Hydrogen, if you compare the flames of CNG with flames of gasoline, the CNG flames are much slower. Hydrogen flames are very fast. So what we are thinking is that if we blend say 10% or 15% by volume of hydrogen with 85% by volume CNG, then it will be called HCNG. HCNG is hydrogen enriched compressed natural gas, and this mixture will, when it is burnt in the engine, its flames speed will be very similar to gasoline. So its performance of the CNG engines will improve. CNG engines, there are a lot of CNG engines in this country. We have cars, lot of cars available, which are commercially dedicated engines. We have lot of buses available. We have generators available on CNG. All of those engines will not require any modification at all if we start blending 10 to 15% hydrogen. So, I think this is one of the, India has the opportunity that we replace CNG with HCNG mixtures and take one step, one baby steps in the direction of hydrogen economy. Okay. So, hydrogen is very high burning rate, while CNG has slower burning rate. It will therefore improve the fuel economy and emissions from the CNG engine. So, hydrogen can also be used competitive with the CNG. With the infrastructure existing for the CNG usage, hydrogen can replace CNG except the additional cost of reforming facilities. Now, I think in order to answer many of these questions that you may have in your mind, I think it is best to look at the property tables very carefully. You know, whenever you are talking about a new fuel, it is very, very important that we look at the property table very carefully. It will tell us what kind of technology we should use, okay, what kind of technology we will succeed. So, let us look at this property table of hydrogen, methane and gasoline. Okay, this is on several pages, so I will explain each one of them carefully. So, molecular weight is 2 and methane is 16 and gasoline is, we have considered to be isooctane or some variation of isooctane. So, 107, 108, 110, something like that. So, you can see that at normal temperature and pressure, their vapors will have very low weight here. It will have higher weight and of course, this will have much higher weight. Density of the gas at normal temperature and pressure is 83.764 gram per meter cube. This is 615.19 grams per meter cube and this is 4,400 grams per meter cube. Gasoline when you make vapors. Okay. Heat of combustion, that means we are talking about lower calorific value, is 120 kilograms per megajoules per kilogram. Okay. And this is 50 megajoules per kilogram, this is 44.5 megajoule per kilogram. This is higher calorific value 141, this is 55, this is 48. A specific heat ratio Cp by Cv 1.383, 1.308 and here it is lower Cp by Cv. So, Cp is almost equal to Cv. Burning speeds, hydrogen 265 centimeter per second at NTP, here 10 times lesser, here little faster. So, when you mix these two, you are going to increase the speed and once the speed increases, what happens? Your thermodynamic cycle becomes your thermodynamic cycle comes closer to ideal cycle. So, the efficiency increases. Okay. Quenching gap, you see here 0.064 quenching gap here is 1/4 of these two. Now, what does this quenching gap do? So, quenching gap is the distance to which the flames can travel before they get extinguished. So, when the quenching gap is actually small, what happens is, suppose the valve is there and if the valve opens, so when it closes, it reflects back because of the mechanical effect, it is happening many times. So, from that small opening, when it reflects back, the flames can go into the manifold if the quenching gap is very small. So, hydrogen, you know, the flames can actually penetrate from the cylinder to the manifold and do the explosion in the manifold, which is undesirable. This quenching gap is more. So, in case of gasoline engine or CNG engine, it does not happen. So, that means when you are designing a hydrogen engine, you have to make sure that the quenching gap does not really lead to backfire in the manifold. You have to put some kind of a protection. So, some design changes in the valve or valve seat are required to take care of it. Then you see this shows the percentage of thermal energy radiated from flames. As I told you that hydrogen is almost flameless, so only 17 to 25% of the thermal energy is radiated to the surrounding. Methane is 23 to 32 and gasoline is highest. Okay. Diffusivity in the air, please look at this table, diffusivity in the air, 0.08, very low, very poor diffusivity. Methane little better, hydrogen extremely high diffusivity. So, hydrogen if it comes out in the air, very quickly it will form homogeneous mixture. Normalized flame emissivity, this is 1, 1.7 and 1.7. Limit of flammability, I told you that methane 5 volume percent to 15 volume percent. In case of gasoline vapors, it is 1 volume percent to 7.6 volume percent. And so, these are safe fuels, very narrow flammability range. Okay. This is 4 to 75%. So, that means any mixture will be flammable. So, good in some sense that if you make any mixture, if you put the hydrogen, make any mixture, it will burn, engine will not misfire, right. But bad, because if accidental leakage takes place, any mixture will be combustible. So, the one thing, when this happens inside the engine, it is desirable because it will lead to avoidance of misfire. Bad outside, if the leakage takes place outside, any mixture will be able to cause an accident. So, it is related to the safety issue. Okay. Stoichiometric composition, you see here, this is when you make a stoichiometric mixture of fuel and air, gasoline vapors will occupy only 1.76% of the space, 98.24% space will be occupied by air, here 10%. So, that means if you make a stoichiometric mixture, first thing you will immediately feel is that engine mein power kam ho gaya hai, engine has got derated, engine is not producing the same amount of power that it used to when it was operating on gasoline. So, you have to then turbocharge. In case of hydrogen, being the lightest element and the one which occupies very high amount of volume, 30% of the air is replaced by hydrogen. So, that means if you want to have a stoichiometric combustion, engine's volumetric efficiency will reduce by 30%. So, that means definitely you have to turbocharge the engine, otherwise the power output will be very less. Minimum ignition energy required in the air, 0.24 millijoule, this is millijoule, and this is 0.29 millijoule and this is 0.02 millijoule. So, that means what? That hydrogen, even if there is a hot spot available in the engine, such as electrode, even that will start the combustion even before you apply the spark. So, this leads to lot of knocking in the engine. So, hydrogen engine knocks, uncontrolled combustion takes place. So, you have to figure out safe technology by which you avoid misfire in the engine. Okay. Auto ignition temperature, you can see this is the auto ignition temperature for gasoline. So, gasoline cannot be auto ignited by compression, but auto ignition temperature is much higher in hydrogen and methane. So, when the auto ignition temperature is higher, it is considered to be more safe fuel, unless and until there is a ignition source, just by compression it will not ignite. Flame temperature, you can see flame temperatures are almost similar for all these. So, flame temperatures are same. Hydrogen fueled vehicle based on IC engines. So, energy content is 9.45 kilograms of hydrogen is equal to 25 kilograms of petrol. Storing 9.5 kilograms of hydrogen requires 55 kilogram of tank when you are using compressed form, and 25 kilograms requires 17 kilogram tank. Hydrogen fuel typically takes 4 times more space than petrol for the same amount of energy. So, that is why I said in that if you are using it in the car, petrol in liquid form or the compressed form, the tank will be much larger than gasoline tank, and therefore, your trunk space will reduce quite substantially. I think I am pretty much done with the hydrogen part. There are few other things, but these are more related to the policies and how India should go about it. But as far as the technology part is concerned, I think we have learnt how the hydrogen is going to play out. Okay? Thank you.